All right, guys, I'm back with more stuff to talk about. Let me pull up my notes here. All right, so the next thing is that AMC put out just a little promo about Season 3, and it says, Season 3 tracks Carol and Daryl as they continue their journey toward home and the ones they love. So this is kind of a minor thing, but the ones they love, obviously, we want to equate that to Beth, but even more importantly, home, remember, is very much the ones they love. And I've talked about this before, things like how the harvest gets home, home is where their family is, all of that. But the ones they love, that's also in the format of the ones who live, not quite the same words, but they start with the ones, and then it's like 4 syllables. So I even want to say that's sort of supposed to be reminding us of the ones who live, and that was obviously the romance between Rick and Michonne. So anyway, just something that we noticed. The next one. So I am just going to read this. Galadriel Jones sent this to me, and I just wanted to read it word for word because she says it probably better than I could. She just said the callbacks are so incredibly loud. So she's talking about all the callbacks in the season 2 finale. They're incredibly loud. It feels almost crass to point them out. The stuff with Falou and the woman who is staying behind in Paris to search for her sister, how she was raised on a farm, like that's the definition of on the nose. People who I don't follow and have never heard of on Tumblr, so either they're new to Bethyl or recently active again after a long hiatus, are making posts on Tumblr asking about why these scenes are there, why are they calling back to Beth and Bethyl moments so heavily. Carolers are asking about the same thing. Why are they doing that? It doesn't make sense. It's like they're trying to create all of this pressure around Daryl's relationship with Beth in the subtext of the season, but this reminds us that while Carol overly confronted her past this season and let it go, Daryl did not do this. When the woman approaches in his hallucination, which was Isabel, of course, she says, that could easily have been Beth. They could have easily brought in Emily Kinney to do a hallucination scene, worked that whole thing into the season and created a major parallel with the Sophia stuff, but they didn't. Instead, they baked in the Isabel relationship as a soft romance and had her die. Then they put her in the hallucination, almost like Daryl is still not ready to see Beth because, I don't know, he's not willing to give her up. It's insane to me that they had Norman Reedus confirm that Bethyl was romantic, apropos of nothing, in the Daryl Dixon reunion segment, and then they didn't put any pressure on the situation at all in season 2. And later she clarifies that when she said they didn't put pressure on Daryl's relationship with Beth this season, she meant like overtly, like she's not actually seen or mentioned in the show. Obviously, there's a lot of pressure in terms of symbolism. So let's see, I'm not going to read all of this. So she says, I feel we have no choice but for Daryl now to confront his past. It will just look different. And then she kind of starts talking a little bit about the promo for season 3 that I think we've all seen. So yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's significant that even carolers, even people who aren't Bethylers or aren't TDers are noticing this now. They're going, oh, we've seen that before. Why are they calling back to that like that? And to me, it's kind of funny that people ask why, because it's pretty obvious to us. But I just wanted to mention that because I think it's a really good observation. And yeah, I mean, it's still frustrating to all of us that they aren't actually including her in an obvious way. Like, we don't see her face. We don't, they cut the line where he was supposed to mention her. And the only thing I can think of is that they're just drawing it out more. I mean, they're obviously hoping that some of the vitriol from the carolers will die out, and I think they're just kind of very, very slowly getting the audience ready for what's coming. But I think at some point they have to put in a hint that's a little more obvious. I hope they will, so that it's not... I also feel like if it's nothing like this, and then she suddenly shows up, I mean, I get that they want it to be shocking, but... that's why, I mean, I think if she showed up in the hallucination instead of Isabel, I think there's a lot of people who would pick up on it from that, because that would be super obvious. But the line where he mentioned her, I thought would have been a perfect mention, because she was mentioned very quickly in passing and with other people, with Glenn and Merle. And I just thought that would have, very few people would have read into that more than just oh, he mentioned somebody who died several years ago, you know, along with Merle and Glenn, who both did too. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that would have been as obvious. So I really wish they would have left that in. But anyway, I just thought that was a really good observation, and I wanted to read through it for you guys. All right. The next thing is that Galadriel Jones noted that it was kind of random that they used the bat guano. I mean, maybe they were just looking for something that was bioluminescent and that also would be toxic, but it still kind of felt a little out of left field to suddenly have bats. We haven't had a whole lot of bat symbolism in The Walking Dead. It's just not something we've seen over and over again. But I would not have remembered this, but my fellow theorists remembered that in season 1, Laurent made a vampire joke. He was eating candy. He was sitting with Anna in the club, and it was one of these things where he took the wrapper off and it had a joke on the inside, and it was something about a vampire. And so that means that specifically in the Daryl Dixon spinoff, we've seen bat symbolism more than once, or vampire symbolism more than once. And we're really not sure what that means. We're not sure what they are pointing to, but it's just we're noticing it, that we've seen it more than once. Let's see, what else do my notes here say? Oh, okay. So one other thing that, let's see, W.D. Way pointed out is that in the opening credits, there's a place where it shows kind of a CGI version of Norman sitting on top of a building overlooking Paris. And he's actually replacing a very, very famous gargoyle that's actually sitting there. I believe it's on Notre Dame. And that gargoyle, I don't know, I'm probably going to say this wrong, Lesturge, is also known as the vampire. So that kind of suggests that Daryl is the vampire, but again, we're not sure exactly what that means. So that's another thing I'm going to look into more. I need to go back and look at Laurent's joke and see if we can figure out what they're pointing to with that, but it is really interesting. I will say, too, that two other things. In season 4, when they got the virus at the prison, remember that it was the bleeding eye disease. So there was specifically blood, and bleeding from the eyes does tend to make you look like either a vampire or a zombie. Okay, so there's that. And then remember that in the finale of the flagship show, he gave Judith his blood. He's a universal donor, and he was able to give her blood. So that probably all plays into the symbolism, but we're just not sure what it's pointing to yet. So wanted to point that out. Would love to hear everybody's thoughts on that. It was pointed out that the song that they sing, it's that You Don't Always Get What You Want song. At the very end, it's got an O, yeah. We just always notice when there's an O somewhere because it mirrors Beth's O. And more than one song around Beth and Daryl has had an O in it. And we're pretty sure that's on purpose. So just wanted to point that out. We noticed really strongly that when Daryl is laying on the ground at the end, you know, when he has the whole hallucination, because his hair is back, we can see the X scar over his eyebrow. And we usually don't see it very well because his hair covers it. But remember that X is a Beth thing, and it is on the left side of his forehead as well. It also looks a little like a crucifix, doesn't it? So, I mean, in a way that makes sense, because remember that I said when you go into the dark tunnel, you have a brush with death. And you could always argue that both Daryl and Carol almost died here but made it through, in the same way that we believe Beth almost died in the hallway of Grady. And so that was kind of her dark tunnel, even though it wasn't physically daylight-wise dark when that happened. And she made it through as well. And remember, she was wearing the crucifix, and now Daryl has kind of a crucifix-looking scar on his forehead. Just interesting observations that we're making. The fireflies that he saw around Isabel, I think I have an ask about this too in my inbox, but we were talking about how they kind of look like stars or constellations, so that could be a serious thing. And then I guess Frangipanilove actually did a meta on this a long time ago, and fireflies are very specifically a Sirius symbol, and it's probably because of the fire, right? So the fact that they use fireflies at all suggests Sirius symbolism. So that is just another way that Isabel is a proxy for Beth. And it also, I mean, Isabel was never a really heavy Sirius character. I mean, she never lost an eye, and she never went away and then came back, right? So it suggests that a Sirius character is coming or just over the horizon or whatever. Okay, this one's interesting. Do I have time to talk about this? I think I do. So Galadriel Jones noted that the scars on Caudron's face. They're actually the scars of, I'm just trying to remember what it's called now. The group that they're, the Pouvoir, Power of the Living, their tattoos that are on his face look a lot like a Fleur de Lis. And she even like put a picture. Here, let me read what she says. I decided to do a little experiment and I ran images of the Pouvoir symbol, so not necessarily his tattoos, but their symbol that's everywhere, through ChatGPT, and asked them to do a symbolic analysis of the symbol with an emphasis on the French context and history. And ChatGPT brought back that it was a Fleur de Lis. Like, that's what it looks like. So if you remember in Alone, there's a Fleur de Lis. Well, what we assumed was a Fleur de Lis because it looks like one. And it's just like this thing that's sitting on the table behind Beth and Daryl when he carries her into the kitchen when he does the bridal carry. And so there's been a lot in the past, a lot of analysis of that symbol and what it could mean. So I'm not going to go into all of that. It's just to say that this is a Beth symbol, so it's important. It's also, you know, like she said, Caudron's tattoos look that way, and Caudron lost an eye. He is the Sirius character here. So all of it just lines up really, really well. But I decided I was just looking for a definition of the Fleur de Lis symbol. I mean, I remember all of the analysis around it several years ago, but I still just kind of wanted to refresh myself. And it means, Fleur de Lis, what it actually means, if you translate it, is lily flower or flower of the iris. Now, okay, I kind of went down a rabbit hole with this one, just a little bit. First of all, the iris, you could talk about the iris of your eye, right? So it kind of ties to the Sirius symbolism through the eye. It represents a lot of things, including Christianity, light, defense, and female virtue. So it works very well as a Beth symbol. But here's the thing. I really homed in on Iris. Why? Because in the World Beyond, which was another spinoff, we had a character named Iris. And she wasn't even like my most favorite character on the show, but I will say that she was very strong and she was a very physical character. She did a lot of fighting. But more than that, they did this whole thing. And if you watched World Beyond, if you read my analysis, this is going to be a little bit familiar. I'm just going to run over it very quickly. In the show, they put Iris with a guy that was her love interest. I think his name was Percy, if I'm remembering right. And they didn't really develop that romance very well. It felt very much like a teenage romance, like a puppy love sort of thing. And sure enough, by the end of the season, Percy was killed off. So, and you know, she cried for him. She did spend a lot of time with him, of course. But they also created a bond between her and another character named Silas. And it really became very clear to me, especially because of the Beth parallels and symbolic parallels, that it was going to be Iris and Silas eventually, you know, even though they didn't really have them get together in a canon way in the show. And because of that, they were really major Beth and Daryl proxies. So all I'm saying is that for The World Beyond, which was a much smaller spinoff, but had a lot of Beth symbolism in it, they created a character to be a proxy to Beth, and they named her Iris. And I think that's really, really important. Now, on the flip side, you can also see Silas being something of a Daryl proxy. In the Bible, Silas was Paul's companion, and you could almost see that as the equivalent of Daryl being Rick's right-hand guy, right? Most importantly, Silas is very, very loyal to people. You know, he never wavers in his loyalty to Paul. And so I think that's important. And they, probably the reason they named him that is a lot deeper than what I just explained, but the point is, it's in the Bible, it's gospel symbolism. And they created these two characters who mirror Beth and Daryl in a really interesting way, and these are the names they gave they gave them. So anyway, all I'm saying is that when I was looking at Fleur de Lis and it came up as literally meaning flower of the iris, that kind of popped a light bulb on for me. So anyway, that's just another thing, is that their symbol is very close to a symbol that we saw in the funeral home around Beth and Daryl, and we're finding ties now to different spin-offs in the TWD universe. So that's always fun. Yeah, I think I'm going to call it there for today, and I will be back in a few days with more. See you guys later.